Oh, it's that time. Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby Day are upon us. Just a few days out from Kentucky Oaks Friday and Kentucky Derby Saturday. I'm Gino Bucola alongside my good friend Barry Spears. So we're going to record a couple different videos for you. We'll do one on the Friday stakes for Oaks Day. Then we'll do a separate one on the Saturday Derby Day stakes. We'll rattle through the races quick. We'll give you some thoughts on the stakes races, who we're looking to play, and maybe spend a little more time on the bigger races. But Barry, DRF, and right now at shop.drf.com, we're your one-stop shop. We've got everything you need. The past performances are up and available. You've got the betting strategies that'll be coming out that you'll have help from David Aragona and Marcus Hirsch. They show you how they're going to be betting each race. Some of the races, they don't have a wager, but a lot of them, they'll have maybe a pick three, multi-race wagers, exactas, certain horses to bet to win. You get the Clocker reports. Mike Welsh has been there every day at Churchill the last 2 weeks, on top of just knowing these horses develop over the last couple of years. Players guide with everybody's picks all together. This is the time to shine for DRF right now, right? These are the big weeks for the DRF.
Oh man, they're just going deep with everything. I've already watched the webinar with Andy Beyer and Steve Chris 3 times already.
Yep. And hey, oh my gosh, it's almost like you've done this before. This was actually recorded on Tuesday night, but it's available anywhere you want to watch it. We have it on our YouTube right now. Brad Free host Andy Beyer and Stephen Chris. So if you want to check out their thoughts on the Derby, they went through the field. You can check that out on the Daily Racing Forum YouTube, along with David Aragona and Mike Beer have a full preview of the Derby. There's a complete preview of the Oaks. We've got stuff from Ashley Mayu, Nicole Russo's on there. I'm going to be previewing a few of the undercard races for Saturday with Mike Beer. Speaking of Mike Beer, he just had the winner of the William Walker, 9-1 winner. He gave that one out on the preview I did with him the other day. So shout out there. Barry, we're doing a 2-hour Kentucky Derby preview show on Sports Grid, where we're going to have a bunch of different guests. And this one's going to mainly be getting into the Derby, introducing people to the horses in the Derby, the contenders, showing them graphics, pictures, and then how we will bet the Derby. And then we'll go over a couple of the undercard races, but that's going to be a real Derby heavy show. Matt DeSantis, our buddy, he's going to join us for a segment. We're going to have Darren Zocali, DZ. He's going to join us for a segment. I think Pete Rotundo from First Racing is going to join us for a segment. Roberto Rodriguez from DRF and Espanol, he's going to join us for a segment. So we've got a lot going on, and you're going to see some of these pop up on social media too. Some of our Timeform US cards, we'll have them individual ones for the Oaks and for the Derby. Man, it's a fun time right now. I'm feeling it. I got all the handicapping done now for all the big races. So you ready to rock and roll and dive into Friday, my friend?
Always. Let's get this money.
Let's do it. Let's jump on into Friday. Remember, we're looking at those daily racing form past performances. Shop.drf.com for all the help you need for Friday. We're going to go through the stakes races. So we're going to start in race number 5, which is the Edgewood. It's the first of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stakes races, I think, on Friday. And I think there are 9 on Saturday. And all of the Friday races, stakes races, are graded here, starting with this grade 2 Edgewood. So this one is for the 3-year-old fillies. And you'll see some really nice horses in here. The Cassie horses are just kind of at the top of this division right now, right? With Vixen and with Nitrogen. They're both really good. And they've taken turns, I think, out finishing one another. Really, really talented, both of them graded stakes winners. Last time out, Nitrogen got the better of Vixen. But it's funny, you can just kind of watch quickly. They're the number 1 and 2 in the race last time out at Keeneland in the Appalachian that they were in. And it was literally just the tale of 2 trips, Barry, because you could see the difference between one horse getting through on the inside and the other that did not get through on the inside. Watch them right here. They're the 1 and the 2 in this race. And the 2's down on the inside, looking for some room, has to wait. And the 1 gets that clear trip on the outside while the 2's kind of waiting behind horses. Things tighten up, nowhere to go. And that just is really the difference between winning and finishing second.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a little bit bad luck.
Unlucky, really. But they're both too nice.
Closer, but I still don't think the 2 would have won.
Probably not.
I think Vixen is just a slight, half of a hair below Nitrogen. But I think, like the last trip, she could have easily won.
Yep.
but
They're both good to start. I mean,
they
they're
have the same kind of running style.
they do. They do. They're just cool. They're neat. They really are. Like the both of them.
Yeah, I mean, but honestly, they might be vulnerable in this race, both of them.
Give me who we're gonna beat them with.
Lush Lips. I mean, that last run, even though Nitrogen beat this horse at Tampa, Nitrogen was kind of all out to get this horse, and she ran her down. Um, but given the same sort of scenario, which this is, I could easily see Lush Lips holding on.
You get Pratt to jump aboard today too.
Right. He might be able to give this horse a better ride up front or a little bit slower earlier, and that might make all the difference. Even the 8 will be right on it and, vying
Super
for that
talented
same
horse.
kind of position as the others. I don't see anything wrong with that horse either if you're looking for an alternative to Nitrogen.
I made her my top pick actually in the race. I think she's got some versatility to her. Just eliminate her debut at Kentucky Downs and just play her off her last 3. She was really good. That was her first start back on March the 23rd. And so it was exactly what you would hope from her. She got a nice trip. She didn't have to work all that hard. It was against a softer group. Now she's going to step up. She's going to face a little bit tougher. I think she's capable though of dealing with a group like this, and she has some versatility. Rispoli could have a really big weekend. He has a lot of live mounts, not only with journalism, but just in races like this where he's getting on live horses. And a horse who I've always liked, and I'm just a little curious with the turf, is the one, Gallows Delight, because if you look at her defeats, she lost to Take Charge of My Lady in a race. It was a really weird run race. That one in the Martha Washington with Take Charge of My Lady and Quiet Side. I think if you eliminate that and you look at her other form, she was just clearly second best in the Rachel. She got the exact trip that you were hoping for. She got the lead. She got the jump on Good Cheer, and she's just not as good as the Kentucky Oaks favorite. And there's no shame in that. Bless the Broken, who was third that day, came out of that race to win the Bourbon at Oaks. And so I think from a class standpoint, I think she's kind of comparable to the horses in this group. It just will come down to turf. Can she be a little bit better maybe than she was on the dirt on the turf? And then she could be interesting at around 10-1 in here. She'll be in the mix for me in some way, shapes, or form. This is where they start a pick 5. Anyone else in here that we haven't mentioned that you want to hit on?
No, I think we covered them all. I mean, Goes Delight is really interesting in this spot because she's talented enough and fast enough to win a race like this. It's just a matter of the turf.
Yep.
Personally, I would like to see this horse cut back. I think the 1-turn mile on the dirt is probably where this horse wants to be. But, strange things happen in these races, especially on big days. Everybody's amped up. The electricity's in the air. And some horses, they thrive on it and they'll run big. And I could see a situation where Goes Delight does run big in this race.
That's the grade 2 Edgewood. The only horse we didn't mention that I thought was at least an interesting underneath horse was the 4, Atadora. I don't know if she's quite good enough here to beat some of the best, but if you're playing maybe Vixen or you like Nitrogen and you're going to be using some horses that are prices underneath and exactas or tries, she would be one that I would want to throw in because I think she has some ability. She's got a little versatility to her too. She's not going to be fast or on the lead with a group like this, but she can be placed a little bit closer if they go slower, and she'll certainly be passing some horses late at Tadora here. So there's a look at the grade 2 Edgewood. This one gets the stakes party started on Friday, Kentucky Oaks Day at Churchill Downs. It also kicks off a pick 5 sequence. Friday, I mean, both days there are some big stars out, but Friday, we get to see some really big name runners. This Ali Sheba is a loaded race.
I love this race.
You've got Locked in here, who won the big cap super impressively. He's been excellent since making his return after missing a lot of the 3-year-old season. But the end of the season, he came back. He wins the non-winners of 2. He wins the Cigar Mile. They put him in the Pegasus. He runs a good race in the Pegasus World Cup, probably just a little farther back early than they would have wanted to. He wasn't going to beat White Barrio. Maybe he finishes a couple lengths closer to him, but he still ran well. Then the real coming out party was in the big cap. He absolutely crushed the field in the Santa Anita Handicap. And the 3rd place finisher from that race, Hit Show, came back to win the Dubai World Cup in his next start. So he's in really nice form right now. But I started with him because he's been really good this year. Hall of Fame actually has some recency on him. You and I have talked about him a little bit. I don't know if he is like as good as some of the tip top horses in the division, but what is nice about him is he's got recent form right now. He's got a nice foundation of 4 races in a row, and he gets to cut back from 1 1/8 to 1 1/16. And he has shown us in his last couple of races that he can go to the lead, but he can also sit behind horses and pass a little bit. So he actually is kind of a good fit in here, knowing that he can do a couple different things. Then you got Fierceness, who I was against in the Derby last year. I was against him a lot of times in the big spots. I got to say, he really proved me wrong multiple times, even in defeat in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He was excellent there. He may have ran the best race that day because he was so close to that fast early pace, and he hung around. He outfinished Forever Young. He was awesome in the Travers, and he showed us he has no problem getting the classic distances, but it is a starting point for him. And they were initially planning, I think, to run on Sunday in a much softer spot in the Westchester, but connections, Ripoli's got a Grande in the Derby. He's going to have a bunch of people with him. They want to run it at Churchill in a race like this. So Pletcher will actually have 2 of his top horses running against each other, which you really don't see a lot until maybe the Breeders' Cup Classic or the biggest races. Those are the 3 to kind of start with, but I don't want to leave out Most Wanted, who hasn't done really much wrong in his entire career. His only 2 losses came to Rattle and Roll, who is a nice one. In that race, when he lost to Rattle and Roll, he defeated and outfinished Hit Show, who we just talked about, who came back to win the Dubai World Cup. And then in his other defeat, it was behind Skippy Longstocking, who's super nice older horse and is really good at Tampa. So there are 4 legitimate horses in this race.
Oh yeah, this is loaded. But it's kind of the classic riders race because you can almost throw out the past performances and kind of see who's better. I mean, I think that's what is going to go on in this race, because there's a situation where Most Wanted doesn't get to the front.
Yeah.
And Fierceness is
so how do you think it sets up? Who do you think is pushing it? Let's see Timeform US.
I'd say Fierceness is definitely going to force the issue either way, because I would think going into this race that the connections believe that they're just a plain faster horse than Most Wanted.
And maybe better. Maybe just faster, classier, especially at like 1 1/16, right? Like at a shorter distance like this.
Right. And
go a little bit harder early, but you'll still probably be able to finish.
Exactly. And I think that's what the tactics they're going to employ, and it's probably going to be the winning strategy, because I'm not really sure how much of a fighter Hall of Fame is. I do like this horse, but not as much. I want to see this horse kind of step up.
This is a really interesting spot for me with him. Like this is a big, like, where does he belong race, because the New Orleans Classic, he ran fine in that race. I mean, obviously, based on speed figures, it was a career best race. Touch Upon a Star kind of freaked. He couldn't go with him. You feel like it feels disappointing because you
never had a shot to win.
Well, and you think he should have beat Touch Upon a Star, because going into the race, he was better. Touch Upon a Star wasn't really great against open company. He was more of a horse who beat up on Louisiana breds. Hall of Fame still did outfinish Sierra Leone in that race, and he did still run a career best. And that speed figure is still competitive with Locked and Fierceness, but it's different getting the speed figure than when you have to face these actual, like, legitimate quality horses and you're looking them right in the eye. Are you going to be able to go on and pass them? Like, can he outfinish one of these other 3 really nice horses? I think, for me, if it's going to happen, this is the spot early on in the year like this, where he's got more of the foundation. He can sit behind him. He's cutting back. So in like some of those pick 5s, I'm going to use him probably like along with Fierceness, who I just think is most likely the best horse in the race. But I don't know what to do with Locked, because I'm a little worried in the smaller field just from like a tactical standpoint. But then let's say the 4 and the 5 are kind of going at each other a little bit. Even the 6 horse is just up there, not as classy, but like making it a little bit harder for them. And let's say even Hall of Fame isn't too far, then it could actually set up for like
to pick up the pieces.
Both of the inside horses, right?
Yeah.
Like the 1 or the 2, like if Locked is sitting back. So real small field where there are 4 super quality horses, and the others in here, like this is Oscar and Katona, could Katona could benefit if they go quick. This is Oscar could have a say just by being involved in the early speed.
Yep. Yeah, this is a really interesting race as far as tactics go because it can go a lot of different ways. Katona, I want to use in some way in this race, whether it's in exactas or tries. I don't think that horse can win unless things just get real ugly up front and the race just falls apart. And, that would be the only horse that would close. He's run against Locke before, but that was kind of a loaded race. I mean, it was the Santa handicap, and he really didn't have a shot. Now you get into this small field. He's done it before where he's picked up the pieces. It's just a matter of what kind of trip sets up for him on Thursday or Friday. But I got to use him because not all these horses you would think would outlast the pace that might kind of ensue.
One of the more interesting races all weekend long, honestly, with some big names in it. Some of the top horses in the older male division. Locked has been at the top of the division early in this year, right there with White Barrio. And then Fierceness, when he left the division, he was right towards the top. Most Wanted has done nothing wrong. And then Hall of Fame's trying to prove he belongs in the conversation with that group. A really fun renewal of the Grade 2 Ali Sheba on Friday. That's race number 6. Race number 7 is Torpedo Anna. This is the Grade 1 La Troyenne. What frustrates me a little bit about as gambling on this race is that I actually do think there are 2 different horses in this race that could compete and beat Torpedo Anna if the circumstances were right on the right given day. But both of them are coming off of layoffs and making their first start of the year and their first start in a while. That's Raging Sea and Randomize. They're talented, and they're probably more talented than the horses she's been facing this year in her last 2 starts, where she's been fine. And based on speed figures, she's done what she's needed to do. She hasn't been incredible. But this is a tougher group. But where I had a problem was the 2 horses who I thought were her main rivals may not be on their absolute best yet. They might need a race or 2 to hit their peak. What do you think about Torpedo Anna in here?
Yeah, the only way I could come up with anybody trying or beating her would be if she kind of got roughed up a little bit early. And by roughed up, I mean just really headed and horses really go at her and get into her and make her run faster than she really wants to earlier. And if that can happen, it can open up some things. But she's been obviously proven to be a champion and fights and outruns a lot of horses, including Raging Sea before she went on the layoff and the distaff. She kind of just ran away from her. But like you said, the tables could be turned. I personally, the way I look at layoffs aren't the same as it used to be. I used to really kind of give pause on layoffs, and then factor in that it's Chad Brown.
It's different.
This is exactly what he does.
Yeah, they get these horses ready to fire.
Right, and I would expect Randomize to be cranked up.
Well, even Raging Sea, for example, look at last year when she started her season, her first start off the bench in April. She hadn't raced from November, so a very similar layoff to this one. She won the double dog dare pretty impressively with the 95 buyer speed figure. Something like that would put her right in the mix, right?
There,
That's right. What Torpedo Anna was doing in her last couple. And honestly, when you dive into Anna, who has been brilliant, right? I'm not trying to knock her. Just from a speed figure standpoint, she's only run those 2 that were 100 plus, and really only the one that is so much more dominant than a lot of the horses that she faces. A lot of her races are in the mid to high 90s. And that's something that Raging Sea is capable of.
Absolutely.
And Randomize. We've seen both of them throw up races like that. Randomize was second in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She won the Alabama. She's certainly capable. We saw her win the Phipps last year. She beat Idiomatic. And like you said, she's the type of horse who could make Anna really work early to set it up for her stablemate. I'm not saying she's going out there to be a rabbit, but her best chances to win are that way.
Well, she might just run them off their feet, and
Yeah,
that's a done deal. And I can certainly see that happening, especially at Churchill.
there's a version of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be probably the play more than anything else in this race, is that she freaks and just goes to the lead and doesn't stop. Um, even if she does that and stops, it's still going to make it difficult for Torpedo Anna, because she's going to have to make up that ground and then hold off horses coming from behind her. So if there's a time to beat her, this might be it, especially when she's, they got a 2-5 on the morning line. Why not?
You hit Darth Vader a couple different
yeah.
times in a nice spot or two. Any shot for her in here, or just in and too tough? Yeah,
none. Too tough. I mean, she had her moment last year where she kind of blossomed a little bit before everybody else, and she snuck one in the Devona Dale, but
she's also
cross-centered
do that again on Saturday in a race. I actually wouldn't be shocked if she went in that one.
She's running the other one,
yeah, which might be a softer. Yep, exactly.
Softer spot.
But again, look, we have these back-to-back races with races 6 and 7 with real quality horses at the top of the division on Friday. First, you get Fierceness and Hall of Fame and Locked, and then here you have Torpedo Anna, and Randomized and Raging Sea are right up there in the division. They're just making their first start of the year, so hopefully they come back in good form and they could be nice rivals for Anna throughout the year. Let's move to the Grade 3 Modesty. This one is 1 1/8 on the turf course, $400,000 up for grabs. It's race number 8. In this one, Barry, we have the very talented South African runner, Give Me Another, who was a good second at Tampa on March the 8th, was behind Saffron Moon. So she's going to have to improve on her rival. But that was the first start for Give Me Another in 11 months. First start in the U.S., first start for Motion. There were just a lot of reasons to think this horse may have needed the race and could improve off of that now with the race under her. I think she's a major player in here, but she will have to get by the horse who beat her last time, Saffron Moon, and both of them will have to get by She Feels Pretty, who is capable of brilliance, as she showed us in the QE2 Cup, in the American Oaks last year. At the end of her 2-year-old season, she was really good. She wins in the Talma. She's third, only beaten a half length in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Then she comes back at the start of 2024 in the Hilltop on Preakness weekend. Awesome. And in her next 2 races, she's a little bit disappointing in the Belmont Oaks and in the Lake Placid. You can see she was a beaten favorite. She didn't really run her race. She just didn't kind of progress. And at that time, it almost looked like she didn't want to go that far. It looked like she was maybe a miler, and that as the distances got farther, she wasn't really improving. Well, that ended up not being the case at all, as she just grew up a whole lot towards the end of last year, and we just see Cherie DeVoe has done a fantastic job with her. But again, this is a starting spot for her. Hasn't run since December, so first start here, and this is going to be her first start against older horses also.
Yeah, no, there's definitely question marks there. I am tending to gravitate towards Saffron Moon, and Give Me Another was a horse that surprised me, to say the least, in the Hillsborough. I didn't think that horse was going to run good, and she ran really good, and really almost beat Saffron Moon. Saffron Moon was kind of all out to get there, and she did, and I think she's going to come out of that race better. There was a horse by the name of Spray from a couple years back that Chad had that did this sort of thing, kind of prepped, quote unquote, at Tampa. And went into Preakness weekend and just ran lights out. I think this horse is better than Spray, and you can tell by the 2 Grade 3 and Grade 2 wins this year, and the improved buyer numbers. She's definitely improved, and it could be enough to outduel a horse like She Feels Pretty.
It was nice to see her be able to just string some races together.
Yes.
Saffron Moon. Because we knew she was talented, but she would just have these big gaps all the way from the end of 2021, and she's off for a while. She races in April, then off till December, then off again till August of 2023. She gets 3 races in, and then she's off for 10 more months, right? Then one race, and then she's off again for a couple more months. So it was so nice to see her put a couple together, and no surprise, They're her two best career races when she's able to get the little consistency there. I think she's a major player. I couldn't really get outside of like, I didn't have a massive price in here. I couldn't
No,
find them.
no.
I thought,
The horses that are, going to be single digit odds are probably the right ones. The 2, the 3,
yep,
and the 7 and 8. I
yep. I
mean,
looked at
those.
the three maybe like tactically, right? This
Right.
horse could get a jump maybe on the other horses we're talking about because could be a little quicker early. Although She Feels Pretty is not slow. She doesn't need to be way out of it as she kind
But
of was
seems like she
earlier
wants
in
a
her
target
career.
though.
Yeah. Oh, she's not going to be on the lead.
Yeah.
And because she was sort of like wanting to go early in the Oaks, in the American Oaks, and they kept her very wide out there, exactly like you're saying, like trying to just slow her down until they wanted to press the button and go with her. So I think she's like a push button filly in that you don't want to get her caught up in it too early because then she'll lose that punch. Yep. That she has, that really nice turn of foot. So yeah, I couldn't get beyond the top 4 in here. But I might lean, like I would play like one ticket maybe for myself where I might single the 2 and play another where I have the other logicals, because if you can have a race like this where you think there might be 3 or 4 horses that are all taking money, if you have a strong opinion and you can kind of lean on one of them and then set yourself up and like pick 5s for the other races to have a lot of coverage, that's the best way to bet it if you like one of those horses enough. And like you said, I wasn't sure what to think with this mare, and I was really impressed. I could see her, just any improvement at all, she might be really tough here.
Yeah, that's the plan, especially getting Jose Ortiz. I'm sure he's very familiar with She Feels Pretty and what that barn does.
Yep.
And he goes to this horse, after Irad was on. But I think that one's sitting on a nice race. This should be a really good race, I think, to just watch, if not bet on. But I'm gonna go against She Feels Pretty in this spot.
This one kicks off the pick 4 that will lead you right into the Kentucky Oaks on Friday. So on Friday, we'll have the Oaks as the headliner. And for a lot of the horses that didn't qualify for the Oaks, maybe they don't want to go as far, maybe they're more sprinters, they will end up in the 8 Bells. On Saturday, for the horses that don't necessarily make the Derby, a lot of them end up in the Pat Day Mile. A couple of horses that you would expect that you were kind of calling out on, Built forever to cut back and run in like a 1-turn races, and he'll show up in the Pat Day Mile there. So this is what we get for some of the sprinters in this particular race. And I think towards the outside, Eclatant was super impressive in the Forward Gal. She's been really nice sprinting. Her only loss came when she went longer against Good Cheer, and I think she fits. She's really talented. She just doesn't like overmatch this group on speed figures. That would be my only thing, right? I have no knocks on her form. She's just not like towering over this group based on speed figures. A lot of these horses have run faster than her. Just looking at the buyers as you kind of scroll through. So I do think it's kind of a more competitive race than having maybe like a 2-1 favorite in this bigger field. The others that I'm expecting to get some support and to take some money, the 10 Impulse Buy, she was really good last year. I mean, she did not do much wrong. And if you can project a little bit of improvement from her now as a 3-year-old, she could be even bigger and better than she was last year. And Flavian Pratt jumps aboard. Very talented. How about the undefeated Bourbon Memory for Brendan Walsh? She's done literally nothing wrong on synthetics. She's going to try the dirt for the first time here in the 8 Bells. You have another horse who likes to win races in the Louisiana bred Blue Fire, who has won 4 of her last 5 races. Mandela was extremely impressive visually. This horse made a massive move. I have no idea like who she was beating, but if you were watching the race, it was awesome to see. Verity was a very impressive winner of the Beaumont most recently. I think those are, probably some of the top tier contenders. A lot of directions to go here, Barry. Who do you want to start with?
Yeah, Blue Fire is real interesting to me on the cutback. Yeah. I know this horse was running in state-bred races in Louisiana, and typically those races aren't like the greatest, especially when compared to a graded stake, for example, like this one. But this horse can run, man. I think the setup is going to be great for a horse like this. On the cutback, I think this horse is just very fast in general. I know the speed figures don't bear that out, but I think a lot of that has to do with where they were running and who Blue Fire was running against. Not dropping in, but getting into this spot with all this speed in this race, I think this horse sets up and lines up to be, get a good trip. Jose's going to put this horse in the right position. It's just a matter of whether this horse can move forward and finish this off. But that race, December 14th, is right there with the best horses in this race.
Why I like this race, just from a betting standpoint, there are a couple different horses exactly like this horse you mentioned that are really fun at the prices they may be. And then you do have a couple legitimate horses like the 10 Impulse Buy and the 12 Eclatant, who I respect the both of them. It wouldn't shock me if either one of them won. I think they deserve to be two of the shorter prices in this field. But Impulse Buy is making the first start in 6 months, and Eclatant, like I said, doesn't really tower over this field on speed figures. So there are two horses that I'm going to include. Your 8's going to be in the mix for me too. But two other price horses I wanted to talk a little bit about. The first one is the 2. Wake me up in Cam, wake up, wake me up inside. I was having a fun, like, we have an inside joke with Alexa Zet, because when we were at the NHC doing coverage, for some reason, like, something happened on her phone, and when were plugging in some of the like headphones and the apps that we were using, it kept playing this like Evanescence song. And she was like, why is this happening on my phone? Like, why is this Evanescence song? And I don't know. And so this horse ran not long after that. And I've been kind of joking with her about it every time. Like, every time I think about it, I'm always going to remember that. But, this filly's a little interesting to me, because when you compare her speed figures to the rest of the group, she's really not that overmatched. And I think it all makes sense. So her debut, she's a runner-up behind a nice horse named Echo Sound. She comes back in her second start. She wins. She's off from September to February. Shows back up in February. Good effort. She finishes third behind a horse named Stable Currency. And Stable Currency comes out of that race to win next time out with an 86 buyer. I mean, that would be really competitive in this race.
Absolutely.
Evanescence then goes to Keeneland. I do want to note, I'm going to look at a lot of the speed figures in those first couple days at Keeneland. I'm not going to really be that hard on horses if they were a little lighter, because we know what the weather was like.
Yeah.
The race, they had to move the entire cards from Friday and Saturday to Monday and Tuesday. And they did a fantastic job. When we watched the races, the tracks looked like they were in good shape. There weren't horses getting hurt. They were in as good of shape as they could have been. I just think speed figure wise, they were probably really tough to get a feel for, and how fast these horses were going. So when I see horses that didn't run all that fast at the early part of the Keeneland meet on turf or dirt, I'm not going to really hold it against them, especially if they were visually impressive. This horse was. I'm going to use her for sure. And I'm also going to use the other one that I mentioned, Mendela, who, just watching like how this horse moves into this race is really impressive. So she's the 12. You can see her. She's a bit out wide here, kind of mid-pack. And watch as you kind of like flash a little bit deeper into the race, like top of the lane, and you just see her kind of move. Like, here she comes in the blue cap, and she's going to tip out. When they like ask her for a little bit of run, I was extremely impressive. I was extremely impressed with her and how she just swooped by. And she's still even green in here too. Like, she could have some, like, a ceiling. But I think Emily Gullickson said this. So there's something about the Oak Lawn stretch that makes everybody run like they're drunk. It happens a lot, right? Where you see like a lot of good horses do that, where they kind of like zig in or zig out and like lug in a little bit. But this horse was about as visually as impressive as you could be in a race there.
Yeah, I mean, in a race where it feels like there's going to be a lot of action in this race.
In these those both, I almost always feel that way with this race and the Pathé Mile. Like, they're going to be a lot like going fast early and set up for a horse coming from off the pace a little bit.
Right, and different moves.
Yep.
Usually that happens in these kind of races. So a horse like Mendela really kind of stands out, because this horse has upside and can run faster than what she did on the 30th of March. And that could go a long way in a race that sets up to be kind of a scramble.
The 8 bells, where you'll have the 10 and 12 to the outside, take a lot of money. Eclaton and Impulse Buy.
I also
Really
feel
talented
like
fillies. Go ahead.
Effervescence is going to get bet a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I will say these are tough lines sometimes to make because the races are so competitive. Some of them are a little off. Like,
Yeah,
I think if she's 12 double digits, that's fine. I wouldn't want to take her at like less than 8-1.
I was thinking she's going to be half her morning.
Yeah,
10
I completely agree. I'm fine with like above 8 in the 12-1 ish range. That makes sense to me. 20 just seemed a little high because, as we're saying,
she's kept good company. I mean, the horses she beat, Beauty Reigns is
a nice
slouch.
horse. Yeah,
Wins Milky Way. Stable Currency, who she got beat by, is a nice horse as well.
and she's not, the difference between her and the horses who are favored on speed figures isn't
not
that
that
big a
far
difference.
apart. Yeah, they're
right.
Not that
So
far apart.
she shouldn't be 20, and whereas they're 5-2 and 7-2. I think the margin will be a lot closer between her and the top tier horses.
Well, not only that, she has some recency. She's been
absolutely running. Third start off the bench, right? She could take a nice step forward. Just a lot of little things to like about Evanescence, and then you can go, wake me up inside. I can't wake up. Wake me up. Every time you got to say it that way.
Well, that horse wins on Friday.
You're going to
be tweeting that out.
Well, you know that. Sure. I know it's coming. I know what's coming my way as we move. They don't make it easy for you before the Oaks with the Unbridled Sydney here. A tough turf sprint race, but there are a couple that kind of feel like the top tier. I mean, AG Bullet, she's a nice mare, and in particular, sprinting. Like, you look, when she goes a mile, she can try to use her speed going a little bit longer, but it's farther than she wants to go. She doesn't want to go that far. But look at all of her races sprinting, especially sprinting on the turf. They're very, very good. She was third in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint against the boys, and she was only beaten a neck that day behind Starlust and Motorious. Awesome effort. So, like, she's the one you have to start with. But again, she hasn't raced since December. So just her first start of the season. To the outside, Queen Maxima comes in from Southern California. She's been in really nice form too. She hasn't been facing like the toughest company in the world, but she's doing it as easily as possible. Just toying with horses, and she has speed. She can sit off a little bit. She's gone down the hill. I wonder if this is maybe a tad shorter than where she's better. Like, I almost wonder if she's better when they go a little bit longer because she can kind of sit a little more comfortably. She could be a little farther back here, right?
You nailed it.
Maybe.
That's my thought exactly. I mean, the way I feel about the turf racing in California is a little bit weaker in general. Then she's probably not at the right distance. I think she's up against it even with the post and everything. I don't know how she can really get a good trip unless she kind of just abandons her normal tactics and either tries to go to the lead or sit back. She's in a tough spot, to say the least. But Awesome Treat is the horse again. We've talked about this horse before, especially around Christmas time. Always at the right place at the right time. And this spot very, can flatter her. I mean, the only other horse I think that might, be better than her is the outside horse, Queen Maxima. After that, her and the 2 and the 3, Awesome Treat and Gavea, seem like the next logical horses behind AG Bullet.
I completely agree. I think the 3 is super interesting to include, because especially if AG Bullet gets beat and they try to go a little too fast with her early, and she's coming off the bench and they think she's a little, she's classy and maybe she's not trying to sit, that's maybe how she gets beat. I think Gavea would be one who takes advantage of that, is eliminate her race going longer on the sloppy track, and feel like she fits really well. She's going to be in late exotics for me, Barry.
Yeah, I'm throwing Awesome Treat in too. I mean, this horse shows up, and it's crazy. Even on the grass. I mean, this horse has a couple wins on the turf at short distances. This is just one of those weird kind of races that, it looks straightforward on paper, and then you see, like, after the results, and it's like, oh man, how did I miss this horse that paid $20?
So Awesome Treat is a price that Barry's going to be including. I'm going to be including the 3 Gavia. Both feel like AG Bullet's the horse to beat. Questions about the 9 based on if this race is the right type of trip for her. Maybe she's a little bit better going longer where she can go 6.5, kind of relax a little more early on. The one who, there is a version of this race where this filly might be faster than everybody. I don't know if she's good enough. We know her from Gulfstream Park. She can certainly fly. And 5.5, kind of the opposite what we're saying about Queen Maxima, right? 5.5 for her might be pushing it, especially against a quality group like this. If you have a horse like AG Bullet, not too far from her, like breathing down her neck. But she is really quick. I mean, she can go basically 21 flat.
Oh, yeah. She's super quick. And that's why I think it's going to make AG Bullet tougher.
Yeah.
Because she's going to flank this horse.
Just sit with the target.
Yeah. And
kind of
just
fall
push
into
the button and it might be night for everybody. But if things get a little heated and
that's the key, right?
The opponent's hope wants to fight, then it opens it up for horses like the 2 and the 3 to kind of pick up pieces because, Awesome Treat always gets the jump on Bling. She's beat her twice kind of in the same fashion, just being in front of her. But Bling is another horse who, under the right circumstances could get the job done here.
Not the easiest race right before the Kentucky Oaks. Certainly the horse to beat is AG Bullet. What do you want to do with the West Coast shipper, Queen Maxima? And then below them, there's a next tier of horses that you can make some nice cases for at prices like the fast Epona's Hope. Do you want to give horses like the 2 Awesome Treat and the 3 Gavia a shot? Maybe you look at the 6 Bling. I like the 3 a little bit. I think the 4 is the horse to beat. Barry was starting with the 2 Awesome Treat. Good luck in the Unbridled Sydney. We flip to the Kentucky Oaks. And kind of like what we were saying with the 8 Bells earlier, Barry, I think you have to start with Good Cheer. She's awesome. Oh, yeah. She's 6 for 6. She's done nothing wrong. And I'm not even going to be saying this as like a knock. I picked her 3rd. So I will be using her in like my pick 4s and my pick 5s. She's not a horse who I'm completely tossing. But based on speed figures, she doesn't tower over this field. And since September of her 2024, her 2-year-old season, she hasn't really gotten that much faster. Now, my own counter to myself will be, she's never really had to. She's never been pushed. Like, we haven't seen her get challenged. Is there an entirely another ceiling that she has that we haven't even had to worry about yet? So
remember when Songbird was running and, she was, I think she was undefeated as well for a time.
Yeah, early on in her career.
Finally, stepped up into appropriate company and her speed figures jumped up. I think this might be the case with Good Cheer, especially when you look at the winning margins of all of her races. Nobody's even come close. And she might have not been in top gear. Now, you could, like you said, there's also the counterpoint. She really hasn't done it on paper yet. And there's some possibilities where other horses like Lacara, who's been running well in spots and on the lead, that could turn the tables on a horse like Good Cheer. It's such a tough read.
Because Lacara, I will say, she is training really well right now.
Freight train.
Everybody's training well, but on like the scale, like on the sliding scale, I would put her up as one of the horses in the last week or two that, just based on what I've seen myself, what I've read, what I've heard, what other people are saying, is she's looking as good as anybody out there and is doing really well. And I kind of like, it's funny because all along this year, Mark Cassie was saying after the Suncoast, she was awesome. And he said, I'm going to bring her back quickly in the Devona Dale. He even said, I don't know if she's going to be as sharp. He said it. But he said, I think this is going to be better long-term for her because this is going to set her up the way we want going into the Kentucky Oaks, where she'll have more time in between races then. This was a quick turnaround. We didn't even have a month in between races from the Suncoast to the Devona Dale. Then after that, she was awesome in the Ashland. And now coming out of it, I think he was quoted. I'm gonna find it because it was a pretty good one, and I want to give Nicole Russo a shout because I'm pretty sure she wrote the article in DRF. But he was basically saying like we're getting the lead. Like he almost said like good luck. You're gonna have to really work if you want to come and like push us. I'm gonna find the exact quote here. So it's an article that is the Kentucky Oaks 2025 article. It says plenty of reasons for good cheer. And as Nicole goes through the field, Nicole did a really good job. She was doing the Oaks countdown with Ashley Mayu on the DRF TV YouTube as well all throughout the year. It says, Lacara is not likely to be a loose leader, but trainer Mark Cassie has made no secret that she will be the leader coming off a front-running win in the Grade 1 Ashland. I know there's a fair amount of speed, but I've already talked to Dylan Davis about it. We're going to take no prisoners. She's going to come away from their running. And if someone wants to keep up, if someone wants to try to keep up, they can. She said she's just on her game. You probably have a tough time seeing a horse going any better than she is right now. She's happy. So
says a lot.
Yeah. I mean, they're going. So you look at her and it's going to be at least honest because she's going to be setting the pace and either outrunning horses or having to deal with Simply Joking, who's quick. Fondly's not as fast. I think she'll kind of be sitting behind, but she doesn't want to be far out of it. You have 5G, who's really quick. Tenma doesn't want to be too far out of it either. Good Cheer, I think, wants to stay close, but she's pretty versatile. Like, she'll be fine being a little bit wide out there. I don't think she'll be, like, up in the mix. Anna's Promise wants to be really close. And then Quiet Side being way out there, she's going to have to stay as close as possible so she's not hooked really wide. If Lacara doesn't get ahead of them, there could be 4 or 5 other horses, Barry, as you would expect, in the Oaks in a field of 14, that could all be pushing it up front.
Oh, yeah. It could get really crazy up front. And, honestly, a horse like Tenma, who's shown the ability to pass in the past, I think might be sitting on a really good race.
And a lot of people are completely dismissing her because her last race was just so low on speed figures.
Yeah, but she wasn't trying. You look at that race, it was almost like a workout.
Yeah.
I mean, he pushed the button late, and the horse kind of sped up and beat him. And it looked like it was just a prep for this.
So Tenma coming out for a Baffert from the West Coast. She's 12-1 on the morning line. A horse who I'm definitely using, Barry, just because the version of this race that could happen is the 6, Ballerina d'Oro. I think she could be one who gets a really nice setup. It's funny because I've never really been that big of a fan of hers all along. Like, she's fine. I don't have many knocks on her. She's just a horse who's like a deeper closer. So she's not going to be as big of a win machine because she needs some help up front. But going 1 1/8 in a big field where she's been in small fields in the last couple races, and that's actually been to the detriment of her, I think, based on her running style. Like, the Devona Dale was a total prep, shake off the rust. Then in the Gazelle, she won, and she was always going to win that race. She kind of hung a little bit. Like, she looked like she was going to blow by and win easy. And that's the thing about her. She is a little quirky, right? She's like, and you kind of go back and forth and you say, like, I'll compare her to like maybe like a Sierra Leone, like the way she was running late, kind of
right.
Like
got to time it right.
Like, she kind of runs like with her head kind of turns sometimes too. And she's not like the most efficient mover late. So you wonder with horses like this, where is that just who she is? Is she always going to be that way? And is she always going to like give up a length or two because she's having a tough time switching leads, or she's like having a tough time when she's in some traffic? Or is there more upside with a horse like this because she's still winning and running well, but despite that, and one of these days when she kind of snaps it all together for a good barn with good connections, can she, really have another step forward? I kind of like her third off the bench, the trip that she could get. She's going to be one of the horses in the mix for me, Barry.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if you look at her running style versus her Beyer speed figures in the 2 races in 2025. In my opinion, she ran better.
Yeah.
Even though the numbers went down because
Yep.
she was closer to the pace, she was involved early, and
I mean,
then
doing
in the
something she didn't even really want to do.
right, and in the Gazelle, she finished it off. I think she might be able to sit back a little bit in this race and get more of her normal, quote unquote, normal trip, but still be close enough
Yep.
in range. And that might make all the difference. I think her positioning early was what was kind of making everything shaky. I mean, her win at Kentucky Downs, she won by a neck and was really kind of fledgling. But the Gazelle, she was close. She was in the race, involved, and then finished and beat a horse in early on who is kind of on the rise too. I know that horse is 20-1 or
But
30-1 here.
I agree. But I
But she's
don't.
better than that.
Yeah, and you've liked her, and she's run well. And I think David or Mike either picked her on top or in the mix in their Kentucky Oaks preview. Like they like her a lot too, and are going to be using her in a lot of their exotics. So I don't have much of a problem with her. And as we finish up with Ballerina Dioro, she just kind of looks like a horse that they've been like developing too, right? Like in the mornings, like they kind of are figuring her out. They're kind of getting to the bottom of her, and I could just see her being at her best on Friday for the Oaks. I went 6-11. I think the 2 is going to run well. Simply joking. I thought she ran really well in her first start after a few months off in the fantasy. I don't know if she's good enough to win because we're talking about all the other speed. I went 6-11-7 because I totally respect Lucara too, and I think she certainly is good enough to win if she gets that kind of a trip or if she's able to clear. And then the 11, like I have no knocks on Good Cheer. I won, and I'll probably have the 10 in the mix somewhere. I got a little nervous earlier in the week because she had a quarter crack, which is kind of like the equivalent to like a hangnail for a human, for one of us. So you kind of hear like quarter crack sometimes, and I think you get really like scared or nervous. And it's not like the biggest deal in the world
but it takes time,
And it is in a race like this when you're facing the best other horses. You want everything to be going really well coming in. When we hear the owners and the trainers and the jockeys of all of these horses interviewed, and they all are asked, how's your horses doing in the morning? Great, right? They're doing great. They're doing awesome. Because they are, most of them. They're really good horses at peaking. So you do take note when you have a horse that had to maybe miss a little bit of time or, isn't necessarily coming in with the plan that they were hoping and they had to change things. But if she's running on Friday, I completely trust that Ken McPeak has her out there because she can run and she can put forth a pretty good effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I ended up 9-6-7-11 with the idea that I would probably play a lot of tickets with Good Cheer in second.
Yep.
But she can easily win. But this is a really, really good, interesting race. I'm excited to see what happens.
This is Kentucky Oaks Friday. So hopefully we were able to lead you all to a few winners on Friday, Kentucky Oaks Day. Let's kind of quickly go through some of the other important things we were reminding you about earlier on. So we were looking through the Daily Racing Form past performances. You can get those at shop.drf.com with a couple different options for the Derby packages. If you're just looking at Saturday, they have one for Saturday, or you can get one for the Friday and Saturday races. We were just looking at those Friday races. Don't forget, the webinar was recorded already and it aired on Tuesday night, but you can still check it out on the Daily Racing Form YouTube and on our social media platforms on X and on Facebook. It's still over there. Andrew Beyer, Stephen Christ, and Brad Free hosted as they went through the Derby. Also, coming up on Thursday, there's actually a show on Friday that's going to be the Kentucky Oaks preview show, and Saturday. So Daily Racing Form will be on Sports Grid 3 days in a row coming up. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But Thursday and Saturday will be the Kentucky Derby preview show. 2-hour shows with multiple guests helping us out, wagering, analysis, graphics, pictures. We'll get you all set up for the Kentucky Derby. Barry, my friend, I will be joining you tomorrow to talk on the Notorious OTB. I think we're going to be betting the Kentucky Oaks with a $100 bankroll. Give us other information on where we can find you and some of the things that you've got going on this week.
Yeah, really, real busy week. I'm here with you today. doing the Oaks and Derby previews. We're doing the same thing on our show. We even did a Thurby card for the first, and that's out now actually. And then SoCal Saturday, we do the Santa Anita card, the entire card on the Horse Racing Happy Hour. So yeah, busy, 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 all of us.
Shop.drf.com is where you want to start. We wish you the best of luck on Friday, Kentucky Oaks Friday.